From the gateway to bourbon country in Louisville, Kentucky, welcome to the Firkin podcast, where every drink tells a story. I'm Brian.
I'm Chris. What's going on, Brian?
Not much, Chris. Hey, I noticed you're wearing a little bit of flair.
Yeah,
up
man,
in the
I got my
studio
flair on today.
That's nice.
It's not many times that I can wear like the key of the city with the guy who gave it to me.
That's true. I was expecting it to be a little bigger, though, for a whole city. I don't know.
I know. We'll have to ask our guest about that.
I guess so. Who we got with us today?
So we have the former mayor of Louisville, businessman Greg Fischer. Thanks for joining us.
Look
here
at this guy. Thanks for coming in, Greg.
No, look, this is going to be a tough assignment right here talking about Bourbonism for 45 minutes, but I think we're up for it.
That's
so
right.
I appreciate the invite.
Before we go into anything, we are a drinking podcast, so we have to pour a drink before we get into anything. And I've learned from my last couple of shows that pouring a drink before the guest starts is so much of a better idea.
It's a little smoother.
So we did that earlier. So we, as always, too, we'd like to theme our pours to our guests. So what I themed for you today is some pours around Louisville and some things that you've done as mayor. So our first pour that we have here today is going to be the 2018 Evan Williams vintage bottle here, which was for the Kentucky Derby Festival. This was barreled on January 8th of 2010. It's barrel number 250, and it was bottled on 122 of 18. This is the first time I've opened this because I couldn't think of a better guest to open this bottle.
That's right.
This was the Triple Crown winner, too, Justify, that year.
Well, there's current history and then the older history. Evan Williams, obviously, some credit with being the first distiller in Louisville, 1783.
That's right.
Dock Master down in Louisville. Think about that. We started as a city, not just a few years before that. And Evan Hill, with the Evan Williams experience on Main Street, really was proof of concept for bourbon tourism, Bourbonism.
Oh, yeah.
Which you've done pretty well at.
Oh, I really appreciate the whole team, the Superior team in Evan Hill.
Oh, it's amazing. And we're going to get right into that. But before we can have a drink, you have, we all know that there's a certain way
That's right.
to drink whiskey,
Yes,
right, Brian?
That's right.
You've never seen this. I have a couple of times.
I've heard.
Seen, tasted.
I've gone through it. Mayor Fischer has his own 7-step process.
So, this is impressive.
Yeah. So we're going to let him go through the 7-step process with us and then tell us, why do you have a 7-step process?
Yeah, it's kind of a little personal joke because 7-step process, 7's a lucky number, 7 swords of the samurai, 7 habits of highly effective people,
That's right.
7 steps for problem solving. And so I'm a business guy that was always into innovation and improvement. So I said, I got to have a 7-step process for drinking bourbon because I noticed a lot of people shoot bourbon like they're cowboys, cowgirls.
Yeah. No.
And then it's like, I don't really like bourbon. I was like, well, no wonder the way you drink
just
it
drank
is
it like
horrible. So let's slow this thing down and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Step 1 is to visualize the bourbon. Hold it up against light and talk about the colors that you see in it. Because every bourbon will have a little bit of different colors. So,
absolutely.
This is a little lighter color bourbon we have in front of us right here.
It's a little hayish color.
Yeah. So you can talk about that for a little while. Step 2 is to nose the bourbon. Okay. Everybody kind of knows that. You need a proper glass like we have right here.
I have some Glencairns here.
That's right.
And it's interesting. I learned recently, nosing can be a 2-step process.
Okay.
You nose the bottom of the glass, and we'll talk about the aromas so quickly. Oh, that's some good smell of bourbon there. Now also smell at the top of the glass.
That's right.
Okay.
A little different. So
different.
what are you feeling there?
So on the definitely the top, Brian, I know this little process. What do you get off of those?
Maybe some cherries?
Yeah, and it's a little lighter when you nose at the top.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the main thing. Step 2, nose it and talk about what's in there.
Yeah,
caramels, vanillas, apples.
And it's on that top part too. You get a little bit lighter notes, like confectionery notes.
Yeah, so that's the advanced case, chocolate. But we're jumping right there too because I see you guys have got experience with this. Okay, step 3 is how we bring the whiskey. I don't drink anything yet, Chris. Calm down. Step 3 is how we bring the bourbon into the mouth. So you want to bring it over your tongue. Over your lips, over your tongue, and your teeth, because it sets you up for step 4, which is the most important step.
Okay.
Step 4 is when you want to coat all of the inside of your mouth and the top and bottom of your tongue with the whiskey.
Okay.
Perfect. So we get to take 2 sips right now.
Well, you don't have to drink the whole thing, and then step 4. Think about when you're step 4. Roll your head around like it's on a swivel. Go up and down so that you can physically get some help and get an inside of your.
That's it. Yeah.
So here we go.
Okay.
Now, every time you watch this podcast, you're only going to see
that's
Brian
nice.
do that.
And so the key is, let's say this bourbon was aged for 6 years. At a minimum, you want to do that for 6 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
because it sets you up for step 5.
Okay.
What are you feeling right now inside of your mouth?
I feel nice, like vibrant spices.
Oh, yeah.
Salivating. The tastes are coming with you right now, just saying, well, that was good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And then step 6, of course, is what do you feel in your chest?
Okay.
Love.
Kentucky hug. All right, that's step 6. And then step 7's a natural. Which what do you think that would be, Brian?
Take another drink.
Repeat.
That's right.
Okay.
I saw a documentary one time that said the shampoo industry made so much money when they started putting out shampoo, and it said rinse and repeat. By adding the word repeat, when first people started using the shampoo, that there were people who are like, well, I don't know when to stop.
Well, I guess I just keep repeating.
Well, I can't tell you how many people enjoy drinking bourbon now because they slow down.
Yeah.
They do the 7 steps either consciously or unconsciously, and then just say, that's nice.
It is nice.
As opposed to just burning yourself if you throw it right down. So that's the 7-step process.
I think that shooting thing and stuff like that probably got its real bad kick back in like the 70s when no one was really drinking bourbon and there was a lot of rock gut stuff out there.
Yeah, and remember the Cowboys movies too? You go on and throw it down.
Yeah, give me a shot of whiskey.
Boom.
Quick as I can.
Yeah.
I need to get it down quick.
Advanced version of this now is too, you would introduce a drop of water. Normally I carry a little dropper with me. I don't have one right now. You put a drop of water in there and you can see how it opens the bourbon up. And even just one drop can really change the taste. And then after that, we go to the next course, which is all about using ice.
Oh, yeah.
And the right kind of ice.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris, you know what that's all about.
I know that you have a theory on ice.
I'm a business guy that happened to be mayor. And after almost going bankrupt a couple of times, a partner named Jerry Landers and I invented the ice and beverage dispensing machines you see all over the world.
So let's just get right to it.
Heard,
so yes. I was, I found that information out a couple of years ago. I was mine that was figured.
So
that
I know
out.
a lot about ice.
It's crazy. So I've told people that, and they're like, "What?
What are you talking about?"
So I think let's just get right into that. Where did that come?
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, it came from a lot of failure. We had a very small company. There were 4 of us. We bought the assets of a bankrupt company for $29,000 in 1980. And what the product we had was a big ice dispenser, and nobody really wanted that. But we could see the convenience stores were starting to appear in America. Then you had separate grocery stores and gas stations. So the convenience store was about, you could get a hot dog and ice and soft drink. We said, why don't we combine the ice dispenser and the beverage dispenser to save space in the convenience store? And we were able to successfully do that. So people are like, yeah, we can do the same thing now and open up 18 inches of counter space where they can make more money. And the company really took off after that. It took us about 5 years to get to that point, but then we became a really nice size global company and sold that in 1997. And I think it was destiny because now, I know a lot about ice. I know a lot about bourbon. And it really sets me up about bourbonism.
Didn't even know that that's where you were going to go.
But a lot of people don't appreciate the role of good ice in a drink. And of course, the best bars have a whole ice program now that, different ices for different types of drinks as well. And some beautiful ice that we're seeing now, the spheres that are perfectly clear.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you don't want your ice to have any impurities, right?
Absolutely.
You want to just crystal clear. Not only does you have a more enjoyable drinking process when you do that, but you don't want any odors or any kind of mildew to ruin a good whiskey like this.
So that's interesting because I've heard you speak about ice before and the cloudiness of the ice and things like that. Can you explain that just a little bit?
So when people, think, well, I'll just use the ice out of my home freezer.
Right.
Well, typically, most home freezers, you're just putting water in a tray and then it freezes it. So it's freezing the impurities that you have in that versus a commercial ice machine or a higher quality home ice machine. The water is always moving and it's freezing just one little layer at a time. When it's moving like that over a freezing plate, the impurities in the water and any kind of minerals are too thick and they just wash away. So it becomes clear ice as a result of that process.
Wow. And who would have ever thought that learning ice and you're like, going straight into whiskey?
Don't you agree? Absolutely. Good ice makes a drink. A bad ice ruins a drink.
I agree.
That's
especially if depending on where you're at in the country too, and where that ice came from.
It's always something, you go into a bar and you order a drink and you ask them, tell me about your ice program. And when they give you a blank look back, it's like
comes out of that thing over there.
It's like, go to another bar.
They're cubes.
Yeah.
What do you
what else do you want to know, sir?
And then on the other hand, when they've got a great ice program, man, their eyes light up and they'll tell you all about it in the different cubes with different types of.
And it's crazy. You're starting to see that in all the craft cocktail competitions and things like that. Bartenders bring their own ice with them.
Sure.
Like they don't trust the ice that they're getting at the competition festival grounds, wherever they are at.
Yeah.
They bring their own ice with them.
Well, not only do you want a good tasting cocktail, but you want it to be beautiful as well.
Yeah.
And, and you put a good cube in there. You can see just how the light's playing off of this Evan Williams right here. You want to, because it's going to be around probably for a half hour, 45 minutes.
Yes.
Unless you're very aggressive. Because we do want a responsible drinking.
That's right. That's right. Now, were you always a bourbon person?
I always enjoyed a little bourbon. I was born in Louisville. I didn't live here my whole life, but my dad and his generation grew up drinking bourbon. So having an old fashioned or, it was not unusual, or just a little bourbon and water. So it was in the blood.
And then you're not into many other things, right? Like wine, things like that. It's not your.
Bourbon's my thing.
There you go. Look at this guy, huh?
Love it.
I feel a responsibility to it. I'm a bourbon ambassador.
You're a very good bourbon ambassador, which goes into what you have done for the city. You were mayor for Louisville for 12 years.
Yeah.
And Brian and I were talking about it earlier before you got here, the difference in the city as a whole from 12 years ago to today. It's night and day difference.
Yeah, when I look at this place, I mean, if you think back, around 2010, and I had moved away. I came back here 2008, and the city I always loved the city, but there wasn't much going on. So you come around to about 2011, 2012, and things just really started to kind of take off downtown.
Well, it was a great opportunity, So again, I'm a business person, entrepreneur, and a great business has a value proposition.
Right.
That is what's so unique about this company that you're going to buy from it, nobody else. A city needs a value proposition as well. And we'll have multiple usually, but one, I just couldn't understand why we weren't embracing the bourbon culture in Louisville.
Right.
And, when I ask people, say, well, we don't want to be known as a city where people come and get drunk and this and I said that's like,
yes.
You got to have a yes approach. How do we build something that's globally unique, that's a 5-star experience where people are going to brag about it? Because as we all know, 95% of the world's bourbon comes from Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Other 5%, Chris, counterfeit.
Counterfeit. It's not real.
What are you talking about?
Stay away from it. So that's really unusual to have that kind of dominance in any type of industry. And the industry was poised for growth.
Right.
Only 15% of the brown spirits category globally is bourbon, 85% is Scotch. So when you think about the growth trajectory, just from a number standpoint, it was right there. And that's really before even people started understanding the beauty and quality of bourbon over Scotch. So it looks like we're going to have a long run in front of us here.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we embrace bourbon, much like wine was embraced in Napa Valley, and create a whole experience around hospitality, around the built environment? Because the other thing you notice about any city you go to that's got some energy and happening is, they've got something that's an anchor for them.
That's right.
Now it could be something geographic, could be a university. I said, we need a hospitality concept here because when you kind of surveyed what we had, this was something that was really unique. Wasn't going to be the whole city strategy, but it was going to be our hospitality strategy because we didn't have one. And so we launched a bourbon and local food work group in 2013. We set out some great goals about making us the center of bourbon for the world and be the premier destination to come here, and did that around built environment, did that around bourbon, did that around our great local food scene as well, because our chefs in our city are second to none.
Second to none.
Ed Lee, Anthony Lamas, Kathy Carey, and then, just goes on and on. I'm going to leave a lot of people out here. So I said, let's put this together. So brought a work group together, brought the Kentucky Distillery Association with Louisville Tourism together because they were having some, they weren't really on the same page, let's put it that way.
Sure.
And so we said, look, nobody owns bourbon. Bourbon is belongs to all of us here, but we're going to do something as a city here to claim this. And so everybody got on board and then led to really what was a tremendous report. It's the Bourbon and Local Food Work Group. I think you're going to post it on your site so people can.
Yes.
One of the few things I've been involved with where you set big 5-year goals and we achieved them all in 3 years. One of them was develop a world-class bourbon food and music festival. And the first things we were getting really weren't very dynamic. The year before that, Danny Wimmer Presents had done Louder Than Life, and I used to be in the festival business, and so it was really friends and colleagues, with partners with them, and they came in and said, we need something big. And on the back of an envelope, in 30 minutes, we created Bourbon and Beyond.
That's awesome. Which is crazy because he actually came here to start a bourbon brand. Like I remember Danny came here, he wanted to do bourbon, and that was his thing. And then all of a sudden, now we have one of the biggest festivals in the country.
So 150,000 people show up for a 4-day weekend for that. And the thing I love about Danny Wimmer, Danny Hayes, that whole group, they do what they say they're going to do.
That's absolutely.
And they invest in quality.
Yeah, that's right.
We launched the Louisville Cocktail Competition with them in 2022. So that was kind of the origin of all of this stuff that you see in the city right now, from the explosion of bourbon tourism. Obviously could not have been done without the distillers. Right.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm humbly take some of the credit for it, but without them, none of this would have been possible.
Right.
As we mentioned earlier, Evan Williams through Heaven Hill were the first one with the late Harry Shapiro who put that together with his brother Max and the whole team there on Main Street that really demonstrated you got something going on here. These places. What's the lead time now to get in one of our dozen plus bourbon experiences?
There's people call me and ask them, hey, can you help me get a reservation in one of these places? I'm trying to book 2 months out and they're booked.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah, 12 to 15 world-class destination experiences in Louisville right now, and a dozen more around the region. And I think when we talk about bourbon tourism, Bourbonism, on a scale of 1 to 10, I still think we're around 2.5 or 3. It's just got a long way to go.
We're not scratching the surface.
Right. It's still largely regional, not total. And so when you think about globally, we're just really babies there. I think it's 3% of the tourists, urban tourists, are from outside of the country.
Just thinking about the tourism aspect and the increase in that, I think it had tripled, right? Just
tripled in terms of people. What was their intention when they came to Louisville?
Right.
In terms of bourbon tasting, and
what were the reasons people were coming to Louisville before bourbon? Like, what was?
Well, we have a convention center, the Derby. It's just this part of the country we were coming through, but Louisville Slugger, that type of thing. But we didn't have what we have right now, like just the Muhammad Ali Center, the Slugger, Kentucky Derby Festival, that type of thing. And you put bourbon and Bourbonism on top of that, and then our whole built environment is really exploded in a super attractive way now, where we have like multiple dozens of 5-star experiences. So think about the role that the Omni Hotel played when that opened up. We had a great block downtown that was open for development. My first years in office, we were still coming out of the recession, so it was unclear on how we were going to come out of that. We started growing out of there, said, let's put a request for proposals out to the country on people that want to develop this piece of property. And there was a whole lot of drama behind it, but Omni ended up being the developer. And we said, we're really looking for something that will express the individuality and uniqueness of our city. And they were really the only group that said, we want to do something around bourbon. And so they built, $300 million plus hotel in Louisville money. So that would be over $1 billion, let's say, in New York.
No kidding.
That right? When you walk into it, you feel, wow, this
top class.
Yeah. And then that led other hotels downtown to say, man, we better up our game.
Yeah.
The Marriott, the Gold House, the Sealback, the Brown.
Hotel Distill,
great places. The Hotel Distill just came on earlier,
gosh.
Right? And so the Hotel Genevieve, and you have more and more all the time. So 15 new hotels just around Bourbonism.
Wow,
and downtown is branded, around Bourbonism. Where do you want to go? Think about Whiskey Row. Whiskey Row was dormant.
It was nothing.
And the buildings on Whiskey Row was one of the first real challenges of my administration. The developer there was saying, the roof's gone. I'm going to knock Whiskey Row down.
Just knock it all down. Start from
scratch. Of course,
that
had the tremendous history where bourbon was stored there back in the day when the riverboats would come down. They'd load up with bourbon and go down to New Orleans, sell it for hard cash, whatever, come back to the farmers or whoever wherever the distilled spirits came from way back in the day
Right.
before the distilleries came about. So a huge part of the city's history and some of the great authentic storefronts, building fronts, cast iron facade. And so fortunately, a group of local people came together and really helped save that. Steve Wilson, Christy Brown, Jim Welch, and others. And our current mayor, Craig Greenberg, was part of the legal team that helped put all that together. And it developed Whiskey Row into one of the great blocks in America right now. And of course, during that, you remember, I think it was 2016 when we had the Great Fire there.
Yes.
Which
again goes back to like, how do you keep coming back?
Well, so I'm like, okay, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm in my office. I said, I'm going to go down and see what's going on. Big fire. And, all of the kind of the owners are coming down and they're all like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, because they were about halfway through construction or so. But I said, this is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened. and
that's a salesman right there. I promise this is it.
Yeah, no, this is
putting us on the map
about the legend of Whiskey Row that's going to come out of this.
That's right.
And I said, you do have insurance, right? So it slowed it down a little bit, but it added to the legend of Whiskey Row.
I have I have a Whiskey Row bottle up there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. The Whiskey Row
right
Fire
there,
bottle.
Old Forester.
Which was in honor of the firefighters and everything that went down.
Doing an incredible job for the city, our firefighters. Louisville's got the third oldest fire department in the country, and they do a great job. But Whiskey Row now is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Hotel Distill filled that spot on the easternmost part of it. Hell or High Water, I think one of the world's great speakeasies is on in the alley in the back as well. So it's just beautiful, and it's part of the lore of our city.
Yeah.
You've got that. And, of course, Nulu is really popping downtown as well.
Unreal what's happening over there.
And it's stretching through West Main now. The Fraser, one of the big things we wanted to do with our work group was to have a center for where people could come and say, okay, what do I do? And so the Fraser Museum stepped up in a big way. Mac Brown was the chair of the time when they did that. And that's, of course, beautiful. And all these things, what they have are tremendous bourbon experiences. Right down the street from that is Michter's. Michter's Bar, I think, is one of the best bars in the world.
It's on the second floor, third floor there.
Just great. Then you have Hilrick and Bradsby across the street, the Louisville Sluggers. Say, well, we want to get into this game as well. So they do it with their own unique interpretation. Buzzard's Roost just opened up down there. Barstown Bourbon Company. So you can see.
That's right.
So you can see. Got Nulu, Whiskey Row, West Main Street, and my hope is that from East Main till about 12th Street on Main and Market, those will be two of the coolest blocks in the entire world.
Yes.
And you can see it coming together right now.
You got Peerless down there.
I want to give kudos to Peerless because they went over on 10th Street.
Went on that kind of that 9th Street divide, which nobody really was popping over.
Breaking it down.
They've built a beautiful, beautiful distillery over there.
And we'll
with
have
a great heritage.
With a new... we had about $25 million dedicated to redoing 9th Street, so that the Greenberg administration will do that, and that has a chance to pull all that together as well. So you can see it happening on Market Street and Main Street in a very big way right now, and it's one of these projects that's coming together, and you're really happy to see it.
Cool something else that's opening up down there too. Just that shows what bourbon and bourbonism has done. Our friends Ryan Cecil and Kenny Coleman of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast is also opening a podcast studio and kind of a little speakeasy down there. Also,
just announced, right?
Yeah, just announced. Like how crazy.
That's cool.
Well, what I loved about that is you can see everybody's got their own unique touch to it.
Yeah.
Because if they were all the same, it'd be kind of boring.
Exactly.
So if you're a bourbon aficionado, you go into each one, they're all a little bit different.
Yes.
And, you could easily spend a week here in Louisville and go out into the surrounding areas and be very busy just on bourbon tourism the whole time. And add the great food.
Oh,
that's right.
And when you go out into the countryside, then too, you throw in the thoroughbred horse experience about it, and somebody says, I am in Kentucky. This is a really cool
100%.
place.
Yeah. I work with a lot of people from across the country. And when I say I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, people actually know where it is. They know about the bourbon.
Can you give me a bottle of Blanton's?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's just exciting that I say it now and people actually, they tune in. They're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And they're planning on coming. Usually, or they know somebody that
or
came.
people they've been here. Like, you've been here? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
And that's what I love the most is when people go away, they're raving fans now.
Yes.
Right. We've got before, and nothing to diminish this, but I'd say people have no or low expectations when they visit us. So if we're just pretty good, they're going to go away happy. Now people have high expectations when they come to visit us, and we beat them.
Right.
Yes.
And that's when you're starting to compete in a different city set in terms of hospitality and tourism. And we want to throw some love, too, to the tour operators out there. When you think about how they've proliferated.
Mint Julep Tours
with Sean and Lisa Higgins. Really, I mean, they've been in this now 10 plus years. They were in the very early stages of this. And of course, they've got a sterling reputation as well. So they've helped connect all these places, because while we're talking about Louisville, which of course is the epicenter,
yes,
the full experience requires that you go to Bardstown, to Frankfurt, to Lexington, if you really want to get the full beauty of the state and have somebody drive for you. These tours really operate that. And then figure out what your food experience is going to be along the way, and then have some entertainment when you get back into town. And it's a good time.
It is. And how much it's done for so many people. There's a new app that just recently came out called the Kentucky Hug. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No.
But what it does is it helps it make it easier for people to be able to book their own bourbon experience tours through time. Because, I mean, honestly, without doing like a Mint Julep Tours or something like that, trying to go around and trying to plan your day, if you've never been to Kentucky, you're like, yeah, I'll do the bourbon tour in 2 days. It's like, no, you're not.
Right.
There's no chance that that's going to happen. First off, you have to make sure that all of those tours are open at the exact time that you want to be
That's
there,
correct,
which isn't going to happen.
No.
And then the other thing is we aren't outside of Whiskey Row, everything else is a driving distance.
Well, there's a lot of innovation taking place.
There is.
Our hospitality industry. I mean, I think if our hospitality industry, Louisville tourism, Michael Howerton, the late Michael Howerton was a big part of this with Karen Williams and others. We wanted to create a profession where you could be proud and growing within that profession. So like the Rose Awards from Louisville Tourism that are really trumpeting the folks that have really embraced tourism as an industry. Because the other goal was to say, okay, how do we create a 5-star experience from the airport when they arrive and when they leave? And everywhere they're touched, you get the hospitality that we're known for here.
Right.
But also, you get the knowledge and the desire to come back and go away as an ambassador. So I love our hospitality industry, and they're, 20, 30,000 folks behind the scenes. They're the ones that are making this happen every day. And then on the governmental side, at the state government level, there have been some changes in the taxes that have helped the growth of the industry as well within Kentucky. So the state capital was a little slower than us to embrace this.
Yeah.
But when they came on board in a very significant way that sent a message to the distillers that, you're really welcome here and we want you to grow here, because you never want to take your home team for granted.
That's right. All right.
How you doing over there?
I'm doing great, man.
Good.
I'm ready to go to our next one. I mean, may or may not be, but it's okay. You don't have to finish.
I'm not going to drink each one of these things.
It's okay. We just need sips from everything.
You heard that.
It's okay. I'm a professional, and
so the mayor does have
I'm
to
picking
leave.
up my mother for dinner.
Yeah. Okay. So the next part of your journey, we're talking Copper and Kings. Now, they were big. So this is their bourbon. That's
Interesting.
Right. So you've not had their bourbon, right?
No, I haven't. But, Joe Heron started Copper and Kings, South African, really great guy. He and his wife, Lynn. And, when I was asked, I said, Joe, what's with the brandy, man? Everybody's doing bourbon. He goes, exactly. They're doing bourbon. I'm doing brandy.
Sound to be different.
And he's got a great brandy line. He sold the company a couple of years ago. So this is interesting. Chris, so I mean, are they distilling their own bourbon here?
They are. So right now, this is a blend. So I had, we actually just recently had Brandon O'Daniel, who is their master distiller. He's on that same part of like, why were you, like, he was a winemaker and like, why are you so crazy to start making brandy in bourbon country? He was one of those people. And he was making it. And here's, I think that's a success to not only the distilling and bourbon industry. They're still around. They're still making brandy. And this is the first year that they have mixed their blends from a couple amazing distilleries. I don't know if I can say them all, but there's some big names. Some big names.
Let's see.
Yeah, so check that one out.
Now, this is bourbon finished in brandy barrels. 7
Right,
steps.
you got it, bro.
That's right.
See, it doesn't take him
Love
long.
it.
It doesn't
Look at
take him
that.
long.
What a wonderful tail this has.
Isn't that great? It's got a little bit of the sweetness on it.
Yeah.
Like you get a little bit of citrus note to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling the brandy barrel right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think it's a great rendition. Like waiting so long to be able to put any type of bourbon out. They waited till the right time.
Yeah.
Because that's delicious.
Well, and kudos to them. You know, they built that beautiful facility in Butchertown,
Oh, gorgeous.
which is by the Louisville City Soccer Stadium, which is a whole nother story.
There was nothing else there.
Oh, right. It was a
Like
junkyard.
Yeah,
that was
the dump.
talking about built environment. That was a big goal to get that done. So we're really happy about that. But then they've got a great brunch that's served up there on one of the great outdoor patios in Louisville as well. So they contributed to the city in many different ways, tangible and intangible, and they've got a fine bourbon here.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some cool announcements coming out in September at
That's
Bourbon
right.
and Beyond that our listeners should
Little
stay
tease,
attention to. Yeah,
That's
a
right.
little tease. And you know what? What else we're doing? We might as well just say it right now. We always have, so we're giving away 2 4-day passes to Bourbon and Beyond to any of our listeners.
That's right.
And they have to listen to the show, and we give a secret phrase that they have to go in and enter in to get entries into the contest to win. So right now we have about 2,200 entries into this. So what's our phrase going to be, Brian?
Well, I think it's the theme of the show, right? Bourbonism.
Let's do it.
Oh, I love
Bourbonism.
that. There you go.
Bourbonism.
Come on, man. Give
That's
it up.
it. That's it right there. Bourbonism is
Yep.
going to be the secret phrase to
That's right.
enter to get some extra points to the 4 days of Bourbon and Beyond, where you get to see such great bands. Like this year, we have Bruno Mars, Wayne Newton is there,
That's right.
Brandy Carlisle,
The Avett Brothers,
Avett
the Killers.
Brothers, the Killers.
Yep.
Unbelievable
Yeah.
lineup this year. Also, I'll be there. I know I'm the last person on the poster, but Mayor, if you read it from the bottom up,
Yeah.
I'm the headliner.
He's the
There
first
you go.
guy. That's
Headline.
right.
Yeah,
That's
well,
from the
I mean,
bottom. Yeah.
I think that's phenomenal.
That means Bruno's opening for me.
That's right. I know that Blandford guy.
Yeah, you just got to go there. I'm the least.
You know, on Bourbonism, by the way, one of my goals, I haven't spent any time on this, is to get Bourbonism in the dictionary.
Yes, there you
so
go.
for our
let's-
listeners out there, if anybody want to take
let's
that
do
on
it.
as a project,
That's right.
Bourbonism is the act of visiting Louisville and Kentucky to enjoy bourbon and local food tourism.
I mean, you can at least get a Wikipedia entry. I mean, come on, people. Let's go.
Yeah, that should be there.
Yeah.
It was all very good natured, but then somebody repeats it and they repeat it and then it becomes legendary. So why not? The important thing is have fun with this stuff. Don't take yourself too seriously, but take the quality that you get people seriously and the hospitality that you experience, but enjoy each other. The more diversity we have that brings people together over food and drink to form a common table, we need more of that in our country right now.
I agree.
We even spearheaded a bit of an outreach campaign with some other cities too. A group went up to like Chicago, Washington, Atlanta to kind of spread the word.
Yeah, we do promotion tours through Louisville Tourism, and the different hospitality groups get together in there, and that's got to be fun. Think about that. I mean, you're showing up with a really shiny new toy.
Absolutely.
Called Bourbonism that's unique to what you've got going on in Louisville Tourism with Karen Williams, Cleo Battle. They do everything in a 6-star way as well.
Mm.
So that it evokes quality, I just think quality experiences are never out of vogue. It's much better than cheap.
Yes.
Because you can get cheap anywhere.
Absolutely.
But people will stretch for quality, and they're glad that they have it, and that's what I'm really proud of our whole bourbon experience is it's really stayed at that kind of level.
Yeah.
As you should be.
People that have never experienced Louisville before, right? Give them a quick sales pitch to come visit us here in Louisville.
Well, it depends on where you want to start on that. I've been out of the country a lot since the beginning of the year, and I come back, and you're just always awed by the beauty of our city. I mean, it's so green, and the people are so welcoming here, and they mean that in an authentic way. It's not like that around most of the world, where people they don't even make eye contact with you.
That's right.
We'd like for you to have a good time when you're a city. So we're a welcoming, beautiful environment where you're going to experience something like you've never experienced anywhere in the world, around the best spirits and the best food. You're going to go home a raving fan. We're easy to work with, both in terms of getting to destinations, but it doesn't take 2 hours to go across town a New York or Los Angeles or something like that. So you can curate just an unbelievable experience here. And if you come around a concert or a festival or a soccer game or any of the U of L games and tie that into it, people go say, I had a really unique experience. And I think that's what people want, right? When you travel, It's like, well, I don't want to go to anywhere USA.
Right.
They're going to come back. Let me tell you what I learned about this place.
Yes.
And that's why I say we're still in the very early stages of Bourbonism.
Yeah.
Because not that many people have been here in terms of penetration around the country and especially around the world.
Right.
So we got a long way in front of us of growth for Bourbonism, bourbon tourism, and our foundation is rock solid.
Look at this guy. Huh?
It really is.
What an answer.
I know.
Happens to be true.
So you're mayor for 12 years, and I know this is going to be a very difficult question because being mayor for 12 years, you did a lot.
You did a lot.
What do you think? I mean, Bourbonism, clearly, big success. Would you claim that as your biggest success as mayor? Or is there something that you would say that...
No, I mean, it is a success, but and it was kind of low-hanging fruit, I thought, because all the elements were there.
Yeah.
You felt that was almost a softball that was just given to you. It was like, why
Yeah,
didn't anybody hit
come
this
on, he
out
said
yet?
it was a 5-year plan, got it done in 3 years. The
And you
speed of government normally that should take 15.
Yeah,
That's right.
or never. Yeah,
We talked about it 30 years ago.
yeah,
We
that's
couldn't
right.
do
It
it.
seemed like a good idea. But I'd say the biggest success, I think, is the creation of the Evolve 502 College Scholarship Program.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Any graduate of our public schools, JCPS, which has 100,000 kids, is now eligible for a free college scholarship to Jefferson, Simmons, and then the University of Louisville after that. So the number one cause of problem in any mayor's office is all rooted in poverty. The number one disruptor of poverty is a post-secondary education, either a credential or a degree. So if you can take that excuse away from people and say, I can't afford for our kids to go to college, I said, no problem. It's free.
I got you.
You know, and the difference between poverty and then a family supporting wage comes through that program.
That's right.
It took us 10 years for that. So I think that's a major accomplishment.
It's huge. And look at, I'm a firm believer of these trade schools, and learning that is so important. More than, I mean, you look at when we went to school and things like that, it was go to college, get your 4-year degree, and no one really talked about these trade schools as much. And, now you look at society where you do have sometimes lack of plumbers. You have lack
Absolutely.
of...
That make $100,000 a year.
Yeah. And now those guys are writing their own checks. I mean, they're doctor salaries with not having to pay back any
coding
education.
certificates, AI experience, machine learning stuff, where you can get in 2 semesters, and all of a sudden, and we've got it to the point here in the city now where you can get a stipend for training. So you get a stipend when you're not working, or you're just working 1 job instead of 3. Get trained up, have a homeowner down payment assistance program where you were paying rent before, but you couldn't come up with the 20%. There's a program for that, and your kids can go to college for free with Evolve 502. So in a short period of time, 5 or 10 years, you can change the trajectory of generations of the life before.
Absolutely.
So that to me, I'm really grateful to everybody that participated in that. The other thing that we worked on was globalizing our city. We were not a very diverse city from a foreign-born standpoint. Our foreign-born population is the root behind most of our growth right now. And I think our kids should grow up in a city that looks like the world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because our world is becoming increasingly small. So I want them to be comfortable whether they're going to Chicago, Los Angeles, Singapore, Cape Town, Nairobi.
Right.
And so that's what you see in our public school system right now. So that's going to have a big impact, especially when people look at 10 or 20 years from now in terms of the growth of the city, the multicultural interest in our city. You see it right now. So, and then of course the built environment of our city is what we've been talking about before, and Bourbonism is a big part of that. So we really, I think the job of an elected official is to take the baton from the person before him. Don't complain about what anybody did.
That's right.
And because nobody
Can't
cares.
fix it. Yeah,
right. Take the baton, and we had a good city. So then try to make it a greater city, and then you give it to the next person, and then hopefully they do the same thing.
Yeah.
There's so many joyful things that you can do as a mayor that put up, because there's also a lot of crap that comes with it. But there's a lot of joy with that. So when we talk about those, let's say, big 3 key initiatives, there's a lot of tough work that goes into each one of those. But when we started working on Bourbonism, that was fun.
You got to do something fun for once. Other than
That's why he started Bourbonism. It's just so he could drink the rest of it away.
Let's close the day with that.
And I know this is a little off topic of what we were talking about. You're a businessman. We talked about you created the ice dispenser and that technology. Why politics? Where did that come from? Did you just one day say, you know what? I want to be a senator. I want to be a
mayor. No, I never really thought about it that much, but
because who would do that?
It doesn't seem like it's a dream for a lot of people.
Well
especially with the TV now.
If you get into it for the right reason, right? I mean, so what happened was during my business career, really struggled at the beginning, but then when we invented the product, the company started growing really fast, and we had too many quality problems. So I said, we got to learn how to develop a high-performance organization here. And this would have been in the late 1980s. And so that's when the quality revolution was sweeping across America. So I figured out how to build high-performance teams and high-performance systems. And as a result of that, I saw the tremendous growth that would happen in the people in our organization. And that from training, from leading, from people on the manufacturing line to the offices. So it transformed their view about what they could do with their lives.
Yeah.
And I really loved that. And you could hear the stories of, I had no expectations for my kids. I grew up in a family that had no expectations. My father even would beat me if I got good high school grades. My kids are going to college now, and they've got a full life in front of them. I got a big kick out of that. So I thought the purpose of any business was to serve as a platform for human potential to flourish, to come alive, so that you could be whatever you wanted to be. And so I've been involved in lots of companies, and that's always been the purpose of the company. And so after I sold a companies, I said, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And I like to do good, and I think we're all born to do good and to grow. I mean, nature teaches that. It grows and replenishes every year. And so how do you maximize that? Do you volunteer? Do you do philanthropy? Or the biggest way to do good, if you do it right, is to hold an elected office because of all the resources that you have at your disposal, and then organizing them in new ways so that you can create scholarships for all the graduates, so you can create Bourbonism, so you can grow a global city. These are changing the trajectory of a city. So my dream would be how do you use the city as a platform for human potential to flourish?
Mm-hmm.
And that really was my driver, and it still is my driver.
That was a phenomenal answer. I've heard so many people talk about business before, and I've never heard them explain it like that, saying they think business is a potential to, grow the person and not the business.
Right.
Because there's a lot of companies out there as the potentials to grow the business.
Well, if you do the first, the second takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
Easy.
That's right.
In our foundation business, Servant, the dispenser business, we started from a 4-person garage business that could hardly survive to beating all of our multinational competitors, Malcolm Baldr's National Quality Award Examiner, and we would just destroy every competitor that we had, and they didn't even know how we did it.
Yeah.
Because we were decentralized, we were empowered, we were trained, and they were still, kind of top down.
Right.
The leader makes all the decisions, and that's a real constraint to any type of greatness. And so, because when you think about people going to work somewhere, it's like, how excited do you really get about making an ice dispenser or creating a software product versus, well, no, those are vehicles for your human potential to flourish if the system is organized properly that way.
Well, we're going to go to our last planned pour here.
And what do we got?
This is a cool one right here. Brian, why don't you pass it to me so I don't have to reach? So this is Old Forester. Now this one's called Mayor's Reserve.
Well, how about that?
Oh, look at that. Look at that. So why did I pick this one, Mayor?
Little story here. First, when we talked about Old Forester, Chris, you and I talked about on the way out of office that, hey, maybe we should pick a barrel. And so I said, well, of course, that'd be fun. I haven't done that before. And so what are we going to call it? So we said, well, let's call it Mayor's Reserve. Why Old Forester? Okay, because this is kind of a political decision. I love all of our distilleries. Okay, when people ask me, what's your favorite bourbon, my answer is yes. Okay, and I don't go to anyone. But when you
mine is whatever you're pouring for free.
Okay, well, but when you think about the history of bourbon, and when you think about Louisville, Old Forester has the preeminent position. Right. 1870, George Garvin Brown and his brother created a company that would satisfy a real problem at the time. And that was, how do you guarantee the quality of the bourbon whiskey as a medicinal product?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just bourbon was served in barrels at the time. You'd put it on the back of a horse-drawn wagon. You're driving around, people probably are spitting in it and diluting it and all these things. So this was the first great innovation in bourbon, was to bottle it. And so for that reason, we said we need Old Forester as the Mayor's Reserve.
Absolutely.
Now, it's a single barrel pick, right, which most are right now. And, what does that mean? that means it's really high proof.
Absolutely, it is.
So this is around 128.
Yeah, 128 proof.
Yeah.
And this is why I set these in order as I went up in proof. Because I knew after the first couple sips, we'd probably feel absolutely fine doing 128.
Yeah, well, and so you've got to be an experienced drinker to do this, and I appreciate it. But really, this is great bourbon to put some ice cubes in and let it dilute out as well. But it's really something when it's this strong. I just came back from a fishing trip in a cold climate. So,
let's keep you warm.
Yes. And so very good for that. So, Brian, what's your observation there, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you what, it doesn't attack me like it would be a 128. It's super smooth. It's nice.
So with this,
it feels a lot different after we've had 2 other bourbons.
I guess that's true.
But it's great.
You were the mayor here for quite a while, tell us some secrets maybe that people don't know about Louisville.
Is there anything
that
anything cool?
We've lived here. I've lived here most of my life. He's lived here his whole life.
Yeah.
What wouldn't I know that you can tell me?
The secret garage.
It doesn't have to be about the UFOs and the aliens.
I was going to say the secret garage with the UFOs.
Yeah, if you know where that is, we'd be interested.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They came here for the bourbon and they haven't left.
That's right. And they're at the mega caverns.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's tunnels between some of the buildings downtown that people don't know about. That you can, taking people from this building over to the jail and this to that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I never really found any super secret things.
Nothing, huh?
What a bummer.
There's not like a book of secrets someplace.
No, you don't get that.
It's like dusty and
everything's pretty much on the internet. I tell you what, I was really, really pleased by the quality of people that work in city government.
Well, that's surprising. That's something I wouldn't
People
expect,
want to make fun of them. It's like, okay, walk in their shoes for a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And see what it's like. These are people that are dedicated to serving the public and really do a nice job at that. So I couldn't be prouder of the team.
So to go into our fun questions.
Yeah.
You get to pick anything off of the bar. It's overwhelming, I know. It's very overwhelming.
Well, I've had a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, well, we know. It's probably that's why always the last pour is always more difficult because
but what
like there's everything here.
Yeah. What do you think is the most exclusive bottle you have here?
If we were to say the most exclusive, we have all the Pappies, but you've had all of those, right?
Had all the Pappies.
Yeah, you've had all of that. What about we have antique collection back there, like Eagle Rare 17 year. I don't know if you've had one.
No, I haven't had that.
Oh, there we go, Brian. Let's grab an Eagle Rare 17 year. Very top bottle up there on the right hand side. Yeah. That's an exclusive bottle from Buffalo Trace. I'm sure you're aware of Eagle Rare.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal whiskey.
Buffalo Trace is,
just
good
great,
go-to
great
bourbon.
Whiskey. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I was amazed that you'd say yes. It's blind. I've said this a couple times on our show. It amazes me about the people that I get to meet and that just blindly say yes to do something like this, to say, come on and drink with me for an hour.
We won't treat you too bad, though, so you're safe.
Look, you guys are great. And Brian, I don't know you as much, but Chris, you've been a big part of Bourbonism. And there's the spirit that you bring, the passion that you bring is infectious.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Everybody can kind of show up and do a job. But if you show up and say, clearly you love what you do.
I love it.
And you just make people feel good.
Oh, so it's supposed to be, bourbon and whiskey, and I love our city so much. I absolutely love everything it does. I love giving back to this city. It's just it's what I just love to do. Plus I like to make people smile and laugh and have fun. Isn't that what also Bourbonism is supposed to be also?
Absolutely.
A good time that you remember.
Yep. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. Appreciate you guys, and
look
forward. I'll see you hopefully before then, but Bourbon and Beyond.
We're going to see you at Bourbon and
Beyond mid-September, and
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Continue to spread the gospel.
Yeah, you're going to come over. We're actually this year, which we haven't told our listeners, this year we're going to be hosting the Firkin podcast live at Bourbon and Beyond.
Very good.
All 4 days.
Yep.
So
fantastic.
We have some celebrity guests lined up to come on and talk whiskey and bourbon with us, but we'll be doing the same thing live right there. We'll be announcing those very, very soon. But some pretty big names coming up to spend some time with us.
But we're not done yet.
Yeah, to finish us off, we got some funny questions to ask you.
All right, let's do it.
We thought it would lead to something. So, Brian,
that's right.
Let's knock it out, man. What'd you find for us?
Yeah, we just like to end our show with a little bit of fun with after you do a pick a pour, and so I got a few questions I want to ask you and get your take on them. All right, Which superpower would you choose for yourself?
Oh, the ability to see the future.
Oh, yeah? That's a pretty good one, because give me an example of how you would apply that in mayoring a city.
By the way, we found these questions on Indeed.
That's right. This is courtesy of Indeed. Candidate interview questions.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. If you're focused on the political side, if I had a magic wand, it would be getting America aligned with a singular purpose and singular passion. We've got an incredible country that can still learn a lot.
That's right.
Okay, we don't know what we don't know. And so to kind of expand our curiosity and to see each other, whatever our political beliefs are, as part of kind of one team, then we would create so much opportunity that we have. And so to understand those obstacles and how to get those, I realize this is a very serious answer.
No, that's all
right.
But just think about that.
Yeah.
Think about how much we get done and how much we innovate with all of the kind of garbage that's going on.
I know.
So, and we do that better than any country. Okay?
You're right.
But so if we remove those obstacles, boy, we'd be really something, because, we've got more diversity than any country has as well, more innovation as well. So how do we become a model for the world? Because the world needs a model right now.
It does.
It does.
It's both from a political standpoint and an environmental standpoint, and drop the politics and let's just, kind of be a little serious about some of the issues that we're having to deal with and have fun and enjoy each other along the way.
Yeah.
I think about other people.
That's right.
Our mothers all teach us that.
That's correct.
I mean, like, what happened?
I always learned that growing up.
Yeah.
I think it's the most frustrating thing for our generation is just like seeing how much things change, just like because people used to be able to talk to each other without just disowning one another. Like families used to be able to talk about their differences without just getting rid of each other. I can't even deal with you. You're a Republican, or I can't deal with you. You're a Democrat. Like that's crazy to me.
It's crazy.
It's crazy to me.
It's crazy because we all have different views on
we're a little sick right now.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We need Dr. Feelgood. Come back
That's
up.
Right.
House.
Where is Dr.
All
Feelgood?
right.
Oh, it's in my glass.
Bourbonism, people that will cure all
That's
the ills.
true.
There you
Thought
go.
about
Look at this. All right.
Hi, Brian.
If you wrote a book about your career so far, what would you title it and why?
Yeah, well, I'm probably just stepping up and giving it 100% every day.
All right.
Is that the name of the book?
Maybe.
That's like a John Calipari title.
Well, I mean, what I always say to people is,
self-help book.
Yeah. I mean, if you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and said, I didn't make everybody happy, but I gave it my all.
Yeah.
And I left it on the playing field. I sleep good every night.
Absolutely.
That's all I got to worry about.
Yeah.
Damn straight. I would call mine Still Trying After All These Years.
Right.
Well, yeah, me too.
Still trying. Haven't made it yet.
Hey, I'm getting there.
I like that. I like that. Actually, that's clearly going to be a chaptered book.
Thank you. It can also be a Bob Dylan song.
And then it could absolutely.
We didn't talk about Heaven Door.
That's right.
Coming to Louisville.
Heaven's Door coming.
That's huge global news in whiskey and bourbon. And we've had so much success that we don't even think about that.
We don't even think about Bob Dylan's bringing his whiskey company to Louisville.
Like, yeah.
And here's the thing. That started as Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
Tennessee whiskey.
A great addition to Nulu.
Kentucky straight bourbon right in Nulu.
It's a good play there.
It's, yeah. And I'm pretty sure you had a little bit to do with that.
Still waiting on that call from you, Bob. Get out here on the show.
Yeah.
He keeps a low profile.
He doesn't return our phone calls.
He's been around town, with a hat on and walks around. Feel like that Bob Dylan?
And probably people are like, nah.
Couldn't be.
No way. No way that's Bob.
That's just one of the locals.
All right, I got one real quick.
All right.
University of Kentucky or U of L?
Man, I'm the mayor of Louisville. What do you think?
Come on.
I just had to do it.
People would always ask me that question.
I had to do it.
No.
All right, let's throw Bellarmine in there.
I'm a big fan of Bellarmine's, but look, the University of Louisville, the Cards, they bring so much of the city together.
It's huge.
Kenny Payne, I'm a big fan of his.
Oh, man,
he's
he's Kenny Payne fan.
He's developing a big program here. Jeff Brom's back on the big sports.
Yeah.
Josh Hurd is athletic director. I think they do wonderful. One of the goals too is, can we get U of L from 20,000 students to 30,000 students? That would really change our city. The interesting thing about Louisville City and racing Louisville is that brings all the fans together.
Everything.
Right?
That's right.
U of L fans together, so we have one team with
to get
them.
behind.
So We got a great sports team. I'm Louisville.
Good.
Mayor of Louisville, not Lexington.
That's right. Come on.
We just recently had Russ Smith on our show.
We did.
That goes back to Bourbonism, man. He has his own whiskey right there. Yep. Mr. and Mrs.
Oh, I love his attitude.
Oh, man. What a great guy he is.
I could not stop smiling after leaving that interview because he's just so positive.
If he doesn't uplift you, I don't know what does, because he's just a happy guy right there.
So cool.
Yep. All right, Brian, give us one more.
What's the very first job you had? Not on your resume, just your very first job when you were young, right? And what did you learn from that experience that you carried forward in your life?
Okay. So I used to be a competitive tennis player.
Really?
Oh, yes. All right.
And so there's clay courts, and I saw these guys laying the lines on the courts at the beginning of the season. And so I said, do you need any help? I'll help you do that. And they said, fine. So I learned how to lay lines on a tennis court. And so I was going down River Road. I saw they were putting their tennis courts down. And so I stopped and said, do y'all need any help? And the guy actually said, well, the people that did this have left. I said, well, I know how to do this. And, I was 16, I guess, and probably looked like I was 12. And the guy's like, really? I said, yes.
You know how to lay tennis lines?
I guarantee I can do this. And he goes, well, how much would you charge me for this? I said, $75 a court. And I thought, I gulped and held my breath. And said,
did you even have an idea? It was like,
and he said, okay, you're on. So I hired a couple of my buddies and paid them, I think, $5 an hour at the time. And, I made like $25 a quart. And later, I learned that the guy was paying the other guy $150 a quart. So a good young entrepreneurial lesson there for me. So that was my first.
Know what your market's doing.
Yeah, that's right. Good lesson.
That's why immediately the guy was like, "Well, even if he's jacks it up,
exactly. Exactly. We'll come back and fix this.
we can get it fixed for $75.
It's worth the gamble.
Let's do it. One of my best early jobs was I was a crane operator on the docks of Kodiak, Alaska, for 3 different.
Oh wow! All right.
And that was a great adventure and a great way to make money.
How old were you then?
That was when I was in college to help pay for college, and you'd work 80 to 130 hours a week, literally, and make over $1,000 a week in the late 70s. So it paid for most of school.
Yeah,
it was a tremendous adventure.
How did you even get that? Like, how did you find that opportunity? How did you get to Alaska?
Well, I talked to a friend of my sister's who had done that the year before, and I used to be an industrial roofer in the summer times, and it was so hot. I just said,
no, thank you.
That sounds like the worst job that you've done.
Well, but a good paying job. I said, I want to go somewhere cool. And I got a backpack and just went up to Alaska and took 2 weeks to get a job. I knew how to operate a crane. So that worked out wonderfully well for me and gave me my love for adventure travel and beautiful places. And you learn a lot working on docks, too. That's a tough environment there. Yeah. But nobody screws with the crane operator.
All right. To close you out, I got one last question.
That's beautiful.
If you were to pick any place in the world to have a whiskey outside of Louisville, you're a world traveler. Yeah. Any place in the world to have a good bourbon to sit there, where would you do it?
Oh man, well, a sunset has to be involved. Okay, anywhere I go, I'm looking for the sunset. Like Mother Nature, greatest show on earth, and every sunset is just different. So you want a great sunset.
Okay.
You want your best friends around you, which hopefully include some family members, so you can share the experience. In Greece.
There you go.
Opa.
You gotta love it. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, we just could not thank you enough for coming on and drinking with us and telling us about your experience. And we can't wait to just see what you have lined up, just moving forward.
That's right.
Well, appreciate you guys and all you're doing for Bourbonism, and
thank you.
Really being such tremendous ambassadors.
Is there anything else coming out that we should look for you on?
Yeah.
What you're doing? Are you going to go on more of an extended vacation?
Are you writing that book? And so people should be looking out for it.
Yeah. I'm going to get back at all those people. Yeah. No, I'm doing some writing and doing some consulting around the country, but I'm not looking for anything intense.
Leave me alone for the moment.
You don't want to stick your resume out for everybody. You're looking for something. Okay. Hey, again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in September. Definitely Bourbon and Beyond. We'll see you before then. But Brian, I think that's it, buddy.
I guess so. Yeah. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, and thanks for coming out. Thanks for running this town for 12 years.
Oh, it's my honor.
Yeah.
Great being with you guys.
We're all very happy to have you.
I think you did leave it in some good hands with Mayor Greenberg. So
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. What he's got to show.
Well, he appreciates Bourbonism, so that's an important factor.
There we go.
If we had somebody running for saying I'm against Bourbonism, it's like, ooh, it's a problem.
Oh, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, that's right. No election in his future.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks a lot though, and thanks to the listeners for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@FirkinPodcast. Questions or comments can be sent to mailbag at FirkinPodcast.com. Visit our Patreon to become a founding member at patreon.com/FirkinPodcast. Subscribe and rate us on your podcast platform of choice and make sure to share it with a friend. But until next time, let's raise a glass to the stories behind the drinks. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Let's go drink some more.
Hell yeah.